Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today we're going to take a look at the Lian Li Lancool 216. Now this is actually quite an aggressively priced case considering the amount of components, water cooling, air cooling and fans that you can squeeze inside it. It's available at overclockers. The black is £110, the white is £115. Comes with 160mm fans in the front, which is in itself quite nuts, but we will talk more about that in a little bit. But lots and lots of airflow to keep all of your hot components happy, possibly, maybe, but actually a really decent design as well. So get yourself comfy and let's pick apart this little beaut of a case. So we always start at the front and the top, and that's where the I/O will come fitted when you get it. Power reset, headphone microphone combo, couple of USBs and a USB-C. If you flip round the back though, 2 thumb screws help you to remove the top panel. And then you can see a very largely offset roof, 120mm, 140mm, 160mm fans. I'm wondering whether this is going to become a thing with Lian Li in the not too distant future, with them doing more of it. Really nice and easy way to attach the roof panel as well. Fine mesh, so we will see how we do with airflow, but obviously you do have the I/O switch here, but there's another one here. Now this is a cost option. So this costs an extra £15. It gives you another 2 USB 3s and then you have some ARGB controls here. Now what this basically does is you have the inner ring and the outer ring, and if you look carefully at the bottom set of buttons, that's the inner ring, then you've got the mode there and then the colour there, and then the top is the outer ring, and then again you have the mode there and the colour there. Now the side and the top controllers are reversible, so you can have them orientated whatever way you wanted. So you could have the power button down here if you want, but as I said to you, you have mode buttons that you can go through, and we will eventually get to a static. Static, yeah, and then we have colour, so you can cycle through the colours, and we'll stop at white because it gives me something to aim for, and then there we go. So now I can go through the colours. Red and white is obviously always a favourite with me personally. And then we can do the same on the bottom. Again, red and white is always a favourite with me personally. But you get the idea. You can control the inside and the outside independently. Now you only need the controller for this if you don't want to plug it into your motherboard. If your motherboard has got an ARGB port, you can save you £15 unless you like having the extra couple of USB ports there. But if you don't want to run extra software on your system or something like that, you'd like to keep things slightly more basic, for want of a better term, with your software install or whatever, you haven't got a motherboard with ARGB, then for £15 you have that option and a couple of extra USBs, and I actually think that's a rather lovely idea. Staying with the front, we can pull the front panel off really easily. No dust filtering, just a fine mesh. You can see here that you have the 160mm fans, which are obviously quite vast. But when I looked inside, there's only one single rail of mounts for the fans, and I thought they'd made a rather large error. As you can see, there's only one rail there to mount your fans to. There's no skinnier ones. But what that does mean is there is very good airflow for those 160s because you haven't got all the rails that are inside. And what they've done is actually quite amazing. Those screws at the top that you can see there, what you can do is obviously remove the fans, but if you move that notch into there, that will give you mounts for 140mm fans. Into the most inside one, it will give you mounts for 120mm fans. There's a couple more mounts down the side, as you can see, and then another set at the bottom. So even though you have massive fans there, the massive fans are not being restricted by supporting 140mm and 120mm fans with fixed rails. I think this like adjustable rail design is quite amazing and definitely deserves a big thumbs up. Because like I said, it minimises obstruction, minimises noise and increases airflow. So if you're wondering why I've not got the big studio light on, it's actually because when I point it at the case, because it's white, it then spazzes the camera out. So we're in a slightly more sedate, light lit version today. But anyway, round the back, we have a couple of screws up here, which I'll explain to you in a minute. But then down the bottom, you have your power supply dust filter, if you have it pointed down, but you can have it pointed both ways. It doesn't make any difference to your system. You have 120mm and 140mm mount, which you can move up and down depending on if you have radiators or just fans in the roof. And it's obviously 120 and 140, and it comes with a 140 fitted. That was the words I was trying to get out. Now, one of the cool things that you can do with this is fit fans, 120mm fan in the back, and you get the options to be able to move this as well, because you can turn this into a vertical mount if you want, and you can also fit this to the back and add a 120mm fan externally if you want as well. So this is basically a 120mm mount that can go here, and then you have the 4 screws here so that you can rotate the back panel round to have a natively supported vertical mount in the case. It does mean that it gives you lots and lots of room as well, because you're going to have this big section over here. So that will keep even the fattest of graphics cards happy. You're just going to need a riser cable for the inside. Now, I have had a play around with this, but I haven't done a vertical test with it, and I'm not entirely sure about this. It feels like a bit of a gimmick, but at the end of the day, it's if you get this and you end up running it, I would personally end up saying that I think this is probably going to be something for a vert mount to help get extra air down through the back of the case. But there's nothing wrong with having a bit of fun at home. If you get a few hours spare on a Saturday afternoon and you've basically completed Netflix and you have completed Bleep Hub, then you could play around with adding fans into the back of your case, play any games, see if it makes any difference to graphics card temperatures. Just remember though, if you have your graphics card on auto fans, then adding this into the back might not make any difference, because if it does help, the fans on your graphics card may actually spin that little bit slower and maintain the temperature. So you would need to manually fix your fans to see whether this was going to make any difference for ease of testing and to see easy results. Just a little bit of a tip for you guys there. Now, round the back, it's all pop clips. So you have these little nipples that stick out. Love a nipple, me. So little nipples that stick out, and they all go into the plastic clips up here. At the bottom, you have 2 small tabs on the fan panel, which you just locate in the bottom and then push everything home. That's what she said. So, round the back, you have this large area up here, which you can undo, which covers up the back of your CPU here. But you can use this if you want to stick stuff to, stick controllers to. It's actually kind of nice that it's not a completely lost area around the back. But obviously you can just remove it. It might help you with cooling. Who knows? Many options. Couple of 2.5-inch drive mounts here. There are many, many lots of cable ties around the case. Now, they're down the side here. These little plastic tabby ones, I love. They're brilliant. It's only a shame that with the power supply that I use in the test rig, that I can't route all of them, because the cable's actually not quite long enough. But it doesn't particularly matter. Yes, so we have lots of those clips there. There are lots of tie down points throughout as well. And you also get these nice tie downs up here. Now, this loop of cables here with the USB 3, the USB 3.2 Gen 2, and the audio, this is how it actually came, and it was actually done really nicely. Quite often with new cases, when you get these, you've got a little bit of plastic on the end and it's just shoved down the bottom. They've actually made a bit of effort even before you've built it. Up here, you have a fan hub. I have this wired into the CPU, and it is actually controlled with my onboard motherboard software. But it gives you the ability to have many fans across the top, but also they're all ARGB controlled as well. So you can see that we have the 2 front fans plugged into this up here, and the rear fan as well. It's only a shame that the rear fan doesn't light up or anything like that. But it does give you another 2 fans that you can add with ARGB control as well. Like I said, you can run them all off of a single fan header then. It does have a SATA power adapter to power it, which is nice. And so does the front panel for the ARGB, that has another SATA power. So you're going to need 2 SATA powers for the fans and the lights, as you've seen today. There is also at the bottom a 3.5-inch hard drive mount, which obviously you can fit 2.5 inches to as well. So mechanical drives down here, and there's 2 bays for that. It's just a shame that the bay come in black. I know it's a bit shadowed down there, but if I zoom round and we come in, you can see it hiding there. I'll turn the fans around, you'll see what the camera goes nuts. But the 2 mounts are down on the bottom should you need them. I have to admit, I'd probably rip that out and just have extra room for tidy cables down the bottom. Round to the business side, you do get a single thumb screw to undo for the front panel. Non-tinted, lovely. White edging, lovely. White done properly. Thank you very much. Now, as you can see, in the bottom at the front, you can see the mechanical hard drive is going to fail, get in the way of any radiators that you might want to fit, especially if they're over 30 millimeters. Talking of radiators, as we zoom out, there we go. So you can get 360 in the front, you can get 360 in the roof, you can get a 280 in the front and in the roof, and many combos besides. You can actually fit 2 160s and 2 160s in the front, 2 160s in the roof. Probably going to have radiators available for those soon, if not now. I've actually not looked. You can see with the graphic on here as well about radiator thicknesses. But I think the thing that I was most interested in was the vertical versus non-vertical mount here that you can see. Okay, I do like the white design more. But I do actually like the white Lian Li fans more. But what this does show us in a very beautiful way is that you can mount fans down here. Now this is my static test rig. I do not change this per case because we leave all the parts inside exactly the same so that we can do the thermal testing and it's fair. But it does mean that you can fit 220mm fans down in the bottom, and then it also this is what this mesh is for, to allow the airflow up. So you can feed your graphics card in a very nice way. Now what I would say is fans in the bottom like this, pushing up at your graphics card, performance way. Vertical with the fan at the back, aesthetics way. It's going to just be up to you which way that you would like to swing with it. So we have lots of room for rads down the front, lots of room for rads at the top. Don't forget they're offset as well, so you can nigh on go crazy with it. It's only going to be if you have any RAM problems. Lovely grey grommets to the side, which gives us lots of room to be able to hide the cables and not have to see them. It's a very clean looking case. Now, clean looking case, lots of fan and radiator options, but the performance, it was actually fairly clear cut. CPU performance was on point. Bottom of the graph, which is actually the right way because bottom, smaller is better, smaller is lower. So the CPU results were great, but we test CPU independently and then GPU independently. Now the GPU was average, slightly better than average throughout, depending on whether it was 1000 RPM or maximum RPM. Now maximum RPM was 1600 RPM at the front, 1800 RPM at the back. And you can see that we sort the graphs differently depending on the results, which is a nice way for things to go. But overall, very, very good performance. We obviously test it out of the box. We don't add any extra fans in anywhere else. It's just as it arrives. So for the CPU results to be so good with just an air cooler, great. If you put an AIO in there, it'd be fed just as well. And obviously the graphics card, we use a blower graphics card. If you were to use the multi-fan graphics card, it would perform better as well. So you ask yourself, why don't you use a different graphics card, Tom? And that's because the whole point in this system is it was tuned, okay, a while ago, to be hot comparable, but also not to make a lot case's life too easy. We want to give you almost a worst case scenario so that you know when the cases are actually very, very good for graphics cooling or very, very good for CPU cooling, depending on what you are trying to do at home. But my thoughts on the 216 are, for £115, it looks great, it performs great, it's got loads of lovely touches, which I think deserve to be on much more expensive cases, not just something like this. Like the front fans, yes, they're big. They could be half covered with other mounts. They thought of that. Brilliant. Technically, the roof at the top is covered like that. Now, the roof at the top, I didn't say, doesn't come off. But if they hadn't have done the front panel, they would have looked like that. So effectively, what they've done is they've just kept the design super clean and the airflow going in very efficient, which I really like. It obviously comes in white and black. You can pay the extra 15 quid for the controller for the front if you want. If not, just plug it into your motherboard. If you're not fussed about RGB, you don't need to worry. Don't plug it in and it doesn't light up. Simple. So overall, a very good looking case, and it performs very well as well without costing the earth. It's three strikes, but three strikes in a very good way. Lian Li recently have been putting out some epic cases for the money, and this one joins that team with its head held high. So congratulations, Lian Li. I really like it, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what people at home do with this when they run out and buy it, because that's what I'm telling you to do. Run out and buy it. Well, no, I'm not telling you to do it, but if you were thinking about it and you were waiting to see what I said, is it any good? Yes, it is. Very good. But for now, at least, chopping my head off, this is the tiniest one with another video for you out. Ding! Love you, sis.